Hello, everyone. My name is Emily Chiles Startz. I'm the gallery owner of the Woodlands Art Gallery and Studios. And today we have the privilege of talking to George Bramlett, who is an artist from Conroe, Texas. And he currently is our featured artist. And I would describe his work as hyper realism or photorealistic. It's just marvelous. So, again, George, I want to thank you for coming and spending time with me and
My pleasure.
sharing your talent with us. It's marvelous. The first thing I think everybody always likes to know, and it's always a nice place to start, is what is your background and how did you come to where you are? And don't, I know you could spend hours saying that, so, but just try to
I'm,
summarize,
I'm self-taught. Okay.
well, we're going to get into that.
Okay.
Yeah, but where are you from and all that
From
stuff?
El Reno, Oklahoma,
Okay.
small town, but it's nice. And after that, I went to the service, and then just moved around in construction and did several jobs and enjoyed everyone, just making a living.
Now, don't I understand you telling me that you have some uh, people in your family that were artists?
Yes, my dad, he draws a lot. In fact, he did a mural on a USO wall in China in World War II, and but my mom never could get him to really start doing it. He did it as a hobby to help out friends and stuff like that. And my mom, she's quite accomplished. She draws really good, and my dad could sculpt and a little bit of everything. So that's more or less where I got it from.
Yes, it wasn't entirely self-taught
Yeah.
because I do also recall you saying you took some art classes. So
Well,
tell,
we won't talk about art classes. I did. It was just and even in college, it was just we painted, and I just more or less went around the room and helped people, and just it wasn't really what you call a lesson. Okay,
uh-huh.
I enjoyed seeing other people do their work and help out any chance I got. So it was fun.
Okay, well, you've had a very colorful working background. He was in the service
Hmm.
and worked for the railroads and many other things. But
Hmm.
how is it that you started to concentrate on art? I'm curious to find out, have you always been a realistic painter? And if if not, then could you share the evolution of your
I've always
of
been
what you've done?
realistic because while I was working, making a living, as they say, uh, a lot of friends of mine they wanted to give gifts for Christmas and stuff like that for their grandmother and I usually do pencil portraits, portraits of them so they can present as a present and stuff like that and that's what I did quite a bit of during my spare time, just doing drawings of
Hmm.
people and stuff
Hmm.
like that. So it had to be realistic, because the eye is the gateway to the soul, so you got to capture it. And so if they had something in common like a ranch, let's say, or a old windmill they can remember. I try to put that in the background so they could take them back to the time that they
Uh,
were. So that's I drew it quite a bit. Never had time to oil paint, so to speak, until I actually retired, and my wife more or less says, slapped an easel in front and said, "Paint." I said, "Okay." So I started painting, and I enjoyed it very much. So that's when I got more experimenting with colors and trying to get everything looking just right. So you can, when you see it, you can it transfer to a time that used to be, or just takes you back. My biggest thing for me is to the expression on a person's face. I mean, that that means everything to me.
okay, so you started out drawing, which is a graphite
Right.
and paper.
Uh,
So now my question, since you're into oil, did you go back and paint things that you had done in graphite
no,
drawings
no.
and then made them oil?
Everything's different. If not, I do things that are a challenge,
Uh-huh.
and that's I kind of teach myself that way. So I'll do something like, say, I did a pastel. I do all kinds of medium as far as that goes. But if the challenge, I challenge myself, and the more if I challenge myself, it gets to the point where I can do anything as far as I draw what I see,
Hmm.
and capturing that on a canvas or paper, That's what I enjoy.
Hmm. Well, you had mentioned, first of all, we hung the show ourselves, so I got to talk to George before today, and he was also sharing that there are many, many layers that he would put on the paint.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
The reason you put so many layers on, because actually the human face has got about 75 different colors in the human face. And the more colors you can capture on that face, the more real it's going to be. And so I try to focus on an area, get it as real as I can, and I just spread out from there. And every little thing that you do makes it that more real. And so I don't stop until and sometimes you got to go out and then come back and say, oh, I messed up here, or not messed up, I missed that. So that's what I do.
Hmm. Yeah, sometimes an artist has techniques of turning something upside down or using a
Right.
mirror or something. Do you use
No,
anything like that?
no, no. I just sometimes you
They
just
teach
got
you that in a class.
you got to step back a little bit, and like my eyes, like especially doing beads or say a lot of feathers and stuff, you get kind of googly eyed. You're gonna have to say, "Oh, I'm gonna have to break off a little bit." Then you come back, and then you see it in a different pictures,
Hmm.
different lights, so
Hmm.
to speak.
Can you talk a little bit about your owl?
Oh, that's what my wife wanted me to do of all things. She said she wanted me to say, paint an owl for me. So I said, okay. So I tried to get the most detailed picture of an owl I could get, and then decided to put it on the canvas. And at the last, I put a little reflection in the eye. So if people look at the eye, they got to get real close and actually see what I did. So it was a lot of fun. It's won a banner awards and like Conroe, and it's nice. I enjoy doing it. It's a challenge. I do it.
This is not for sale, by the way.
My wife won't let me sell it.
Well, it's important because she was the
Oh
inspiration.
yeah, she'd kill me too.
Yeah, that's great. So, if you were talking to aspiring artists, what would you advise them to do?
Aspiring artist. It's all about practice, and it's all about it's the eye. You've got to get more into what you're doing. Like I said before, if you're doing realism or anything, concentrate on one thing and get that just right, and then you can go from there. Don't just do everything. Say, oh, that's okay. I'm satisfied. Oh, they like it, or you get praise for it. Then you know down deep that you didn't do your best. So I always try to do the best that I can do on everything that I do. And I've torn up paintings before. I've torn up a painting of an Indian one time, and everybody thought that was great. But to me, I rushed through it. I wasn't satisfied, so I ripped it up. So I'm not afraid to tear something up that I
Hmm.
don't like.
Hmm.
So and I've done, like I said, it's all about the more the more you do, and the better you feel in yourself when you do it. And when you get that phrase, the praise more or less, it makes you feel really good. I mean, when it touches your heart, you want to touch their heart. Same thing.
You were talking about the Indian paintings. Let's talk a little bit about the subject matter that you enjoy
Uh-huh.
painting. So here at the gallery, we've got a number of American Indian
Mm.
paintings. We also have old cars, and we even have a parrot, and we have some
Yeah,
soldiers. So
I'm like
could
a
you,
little diverse here,
yes, so could you
but
talk about that?
I just want something like half. I mean, like Sam Qualpaw. Okay, so I wanted to touch on the Indian and show the power of the Indian in their soul, capture the Indian, what they're thinking about. When you look at
Hmm.
the Indian painting, you want to say he's thinking of something,
Hmm.
something along that line.
Well, in fact, there's a piece behind you that is very powerful.
Uh,
And I think you said that this gentleman posed for you, but if you look at
uh,
it, it's the one he's posing by with the reflection of the
well, he didn't really
water.
pose for me. He actually was a photographer in Canada,
Ah,
and I went through him because it was a beautiful picture. I mean, beautiful, and uh, and that was years ago. And I says, I just can't let that go without painting it. And it was a beautiful photograph. Of course, I made some changes, but it was there. So it was a very good reference as far as that
well, it's a
goes.
very thought-provoking
Right.
image. Very thought-provoking.
And that's what I do with all the paintings. I try to get somebody just to take them back someplace, an old memory, or like the old cars, always liked the old cars because of the patina and all the rust, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of layers on that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it gets tedious when I talk about breaking away from a painting for a little bit. It's like when you're doing a lot of beads or anything like hair. It gets to where you start just you lose focus after a while, so you got to
Mm-hmm.
back off and come back.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Mm-hmm.
never give up on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I admire your patience.
My wife says that's the only way I'm patient is when I'm painting.
What else would you like to share with your
I
audience?
used to be when I'm retired. I was a member of BACA, Bikers Against Child Abuse, and I rode with them for 10 years. And I was kind of like a child liaison. And what we do is more or less accept those children, abused children in our family, and we assign somebody to go with them and be there 24/7, whatever they need.
Mm-hmm.
So when we make that presentation, I'd go with the group and I'd present them these Apache Tears. I made about I'd say 1,500 of these, and just gave them away. And what it is, the story of the Apache Tear, like in the 1800s, which I tell each child that because they just want something to hold on to,
Mm-hmm.
especially going to the court. And it's a long time ago. There was a Apache tribe in Arizona. They were starving to death during the winter, so they sent all their Apaches out, which I tell these kids this, and all their warriors out. So they were looking for food. The only food they found was a settlement, just some cattle. So they just took enough cattle to feed their tribe. So, needless to say, when they camped out on this bluff, they got ambushed by the settlers and the militia there. So, 75 off the initial attack died. The other 25 went off a cliff after they ran out of arrows, ready to be killed by the white man. So the next day, for a whole full moon, all the mothers, fathers of the Indians that have died were crying at the bottom of this cliff. And the Great Spirit looked down and turned their tears into these stones. And I tell the children, if you have this stone, you'll never have to shed another tear again because all the tears have been shed.
Mm.
And you release that spirit from Mother Earth. And I have them hold it up to the sun, and they can see right through that stone. And I have them hang it on it, and it gives them a little bit more, something to hold on to.
Gosh.
So I've done that many, 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 many bracelets. Necklaces. So
Very
but that
touching.
means it's something, I just like to do what I can.
It's a way to express your gift.
Yeah, exactly.
The last thing I want to ask you, George, is tell us about what you're working on now.
You don't want to know.
Actually, I already know what it is, but
Well, after this, I painted this Duesenberg for this friend of mine in Indiana. That's when I started doing drawings just to break the pace of a painting. And so my grandson, in a couple of years, he'll be going to college. So a friend of mine gave me some practice bombs that are about, I'd say 5 feet high. So I painted a dragon on one of them. And so I've got another one here, and I'm actually painting the other dragon so he can take to college for his dorm as a conversation piece.
not to explode.
Exactly.
Good.
But I enjoy doing that. Just middling around, doing something.
Sounds like you can do just about anything you set your mind on.
I'll try.
Well, again, I want to thank you for sharing your story and your wonderful art. And thank you for joining us. I'm Emily Chiles Startz of the Woodlands Art Gallery and Studios, and this is George Bramlett.
Been a pleasure.